Hey, this is Tuan Aditya from Lighthaven. Today we're going to be doing some double knife combinations except in alternating grips, which means one grip, one hand is going to be in Pakal, one is going to be in Saksa. Depending on the type of weapon, the length of weapon and the grip in which you are using the weapon, the way you will use the weapon will greatly differ. When both knives are in this Pakal grip, they have certain characteristics, certain strengths and certain weaknesses. When both of them are in Saksa, they have certain strengths and weaknesses. However, these two variations are things that we train quite a lot. This odd variation where one is in Saksa, one is in Pakal is not something that's often trained. It's the characteristics of this variation that we're going to be studying today. For the purposes of today's video, I'm going to keep my front hand in Pakal or ice pick and my back hand in Saksa or hammer grip. Now, my front hand and my back hand are going to have, at least in the beginning, very fixed roles. My front hand is going to be what I'm going to use to scoop, almost like a shield, and my back hand is going to be the inserts that I'm going to be thinking of, almost the finishing thrusts are going to come from my backhand. So my front hand protects me, scoops, parries, clears the path for my backhand to thrust. This is how we're going to approach it, at least in the beginning. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 entries or 3 combinations which will help you get started on exploring using the double knives in this way. We're going to start with our left leg in front. Our left hand is going to have the knife in this ice pick grip. Our right hand is going to have it in the hammer grip. Now I want to stand in a sort of staggered stance where my left side is further ahead than my right hand side. So my right hand side is sort of protected. It's almost like a bladed stance with my left leg in front. Now the first combination of entry is going to require my left hand to scoop almost, maybe there could be a straight thrust or an angle 1 coming from that direction. I'm going to scoop and come back up with a slash. Now while I do that, my backhand, as I scoop, is going to thrust. So there's an attack coming from the forehand side from that direction. I'm going to scoop, clear the path for my thrusting knife and then come back up with a slash of my own. From another direction, scoop and thrust, slash. Scoop, thrust, slash. That's going to be our first entry, and now we're going to follow up with that. So scoop, thrust, slash, thrust, thrust, slash. One more time, scoop and thrust. This comes up with a slash. This is going to come back with a backhand thrust followed by another thrust followed by a slash. The next entry is going to require my front hand to, again, there's a slash coming from that side, angle 1, or a thrust coming from that side, angle 1. I'm going to parry from the outside, direct that or deflect that thrust or slash away from me, and as I'm doing that, I'm slashing the hand. Now it's really important to remember that when I am parrying, I am looking to parry on my opponent's wrist. If I'm looking to parry on my opponent's wrist, it means that my cutting hand, the cutting knife, must be below, because then I'm going to be cutting their forehand. So do not go like this, because this means that I'm parrying the forehand and cutting the wrist. I want to be doing the opposite, where I'm parrying on the wrist and cutting the forearm. The other thing to keep in mind is do not stab yourself. One of the reasons why we work double knife is to make sure that we have the coordination to use double weapons without cutting ourselves. So we're going to parry and cut. So there's an attack coming from there. Parry and cut, and then come back up with another slash. So this hand is doing a very similar motion, except instead of scooping and slashing, it's parrying. So it's almost the way that I was taught this was you're meeting someone's angle 1 from there with your own angle 1 from this side. And then you're coming up with a slash. So parry and slash, slash, thrust, thrust, slash. Same follow up as the other one. One more time. In this variation, it helps to step back a little bit or lean back a little bit as you're doing the parry, because what you're trying to make your opponent do is extend a lot more to reach you, which is what's going to give you the time to be able to parry, and that's also going to give you the extension of the arm that's going to make it easier for you to cut the arm, and you don't have to necessarily worry about stabbing yourself or cutting yourself. So that angle is coming from there, you're making them extend, you're leaning back, or you're taking a small step back with that back leg, and then you're doing the parry and cut together. The third one is in some ways thought of as the opposite of the second one. In the second one, you are deflecting or parrying across. In this third variation, we are again imagining that angle 1, we're looking to jam on the inside. It could be for many reasons. Maybe I'm not getting that diagonal angle 1, maybe it's coming more horizontal or even closer to horizontal, and I cannot parry to get to the outside, or I cannot parry it away. It's too close to being horizontal, in which case I have to jam on the inside. But I still want to be able to cut that forearm at the same time. So as I'm going to jam on the inside, I'm going to cut as well. Instead of cutting, now this is an option as well, I can jam and cut at the same time, going to the outside. However, for this variation, I'm going to jam on the inside and cut towards the inside as well, almost like this scissoring gunting motion. So we go jam and cut. Now again, we're going to follow it up with the same follow-up as the first and the second one. Your opponent's arm is between the knife and your fist. You're jamming, you're cutting, and then again you're following it up with that small slash, followed by a backhand thrust, reverse thrust, followed by your knife, followed by a slash again. You have two options for footwork in here. Either again, we are stepping back as that slash is coming, except we're not stepping straight back here. We're going to be stepping 45 degrees back as I'm looking to jam to get a better angle for that cut. And then you can follow it up, or you're stepping into your opponent to jam that oncoming strike before it can reach its point of full extension and full power. And so I'm stepping in as I'm slashing, and then I'm following it up with whatever else that I want to follow it up with. The first thing to look out for is you have to be aware of where your weapons are at all moments. So you're not cutting yourself, you're not stabbing yourself, you're able to coordinate and move both weapons in effective ways while still being safe. And this requires practice at a nice, easy, fluid pace. Don't rush this, because then you'll make mistakes. The second thing to remember is to, at least in your mind, be very familiar and very clear that you are parrying or scooping or jamming that wrist. We're not looking to parry that forearm and cut the wrist. We're looking to parry the wrist and cut the forearm, or jam and cut here. So my cutting hand, the saksa hand, whenever it's going to cut at the same time as the parry or the jam, is going to be ahead of my knife in pakal. It's not going to be the other way around. I am parrying and cutting. I am jamming and cutting. The third thing to be aware of, and this goes back to a principle, if you have followed this channel for a bit, you know that we always talk about some basic rules for using or coordinating double weapons. And here we're trying to follow one weapon with the other weapon. So whichever combination you're doing, whether it's the first one where the retraction of this first thrust leads to that slash, which leads to another thrust, which leads to another thrust, and the retraction of this thrust again leads to that slash. So every attack is being followed up by another attack, and both weapons are supporting each other. To end with, I want to give you guys a fun way of setting up all three of these entries, and that's setting it up after a jab. And this is also like it's a good exercise to see how familiar you have become with these entries once you practice them enough. So I'm going to be having again my left leg forward, right hand at the back. I'm going to first jab, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my opponent to lean back and then attack with something, thus trying to make him extend. I'm trying to make him extend his arm, which gives me time to do whatever it is that I have to do. So I'm jabbing, making my opponent step back or lean back, and then when he fires, that's when I go into whichever combination I want to go into. Again, jab, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jab, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot. A huge thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to know more about our Patreon page, check out the link I'm going to leave in the description down below. Lastly, our online class is up and running. Our residential program is up and running. So to train with us either wherever you are in the world from your home or with us here in Goa, check out the email address I'm going to leave in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.